Good afternoon, everyone, depending on what time zone you're joining us from. We're going to get right away into the Facebook test that we recently ran, and then I've got a question for you. Now, this will be different than the previous broadcasts. I want you to look at this particular test with a view in mind that you helped us conceive and plan it in the last session. I'm not going to wait to the end of the broadcast to show you these results. I'm going to show them to you now. And in an upcoming broadcast, we're going to put all the recent Facebook tests together. We're also getting ready to start a string of tests in YouTube, and we're going to be reporting on those results with you so that you can start to see how all these pieces come together. But for now, the essence of the test was two different approaches. One relied on keywords and audience interest, and the other relied on lookalike, which is a concept where, the primary audience is sampled and expanded upon using the Facebook tool set. Now, we ran this test using Facebook's tool set, and ultimately the question we're trying to resolve in today's experiment is, at least in phase one, which is going to have the lowest CPA, the lowest cost per acquisition? Is it the lookalike audience that we attract, or is it the interest-based audience that we attract? With that in mind, I'm going to share with you the lookalike audience CPA. It was $2.88, $2.88. Now, for the next piece, the interest-based audience, you helped create keywords. Some of the keywords you suggested were not in the Facebook option set for us, but we did include those that were, and out of that, we developed a different approach, and this was, again, a cost based on interest. So, lookalike audience, you have the cost, and now I'll show you the interest-based audience. But before I go forward, I see familiar faces, Stephen and Sean and Dave and others. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think lookalike will win? Do you think audience-based will win, or do you? Interest-based will win, or do you think it'll be a wash? What do you guess? And it is okay to guess at this point. We're not stuck with our guesses because we have a methodology for talking to our audience and discovering through scientific testing what really matters. So Torrin says value-based lookalike audience are working good these days. Good point, Torrin. They are, and I've seen them work remarkably well around the world. But keep going. Someone else. I'm listening to a suggestion from Stephen that I see Paul is responding to. Good. Keep those suggestions coming. And anybody else? What do you think is going to work? Is it the interest-based approach? And this is where you are attracting people with keywords. The other is the lookalike approach, where you're basically sampling the audience that you know has purchased in the past, or that is your ideal audience, and you're then allowing Facebook to build a list of people around that sample so that you can reach to them with your message. Lookalike says Sean. Lookalike says Onzis. Dave says I'll go interest. And Neil says lookalike. All right, there's more coming in, but we're going to get with the results. There's the two side by side. And the interest-based audience cost us $1.38 as opposed to $2.88. That is a 52% difference. And what that means, and Paul, this is probably a positive number, it's a 52% improvement for us in this experiment using the interest-based approach. Now, one point for you that are joining us. Some of you, how many of you are using Facebook right now? I'd love for you just to let us know if you're using Facebook as a test or not. But it's been my experience since, being in this industry since its earliest days with the very first advertising and tracking what's developing, when banner ads were very popular and yet quickly diminishing in effectiveness. We saw Google come along and offer an approach, and they copied this approach but improved it dramatically with AdWords that literally transformed, I think, the internet and commerce everywhere, made people lots of money, and made Google almost unfathomable amounts of money. But there was a time when Google was almost the only game in town. They had other sources. We could go somewhere else, but it was hard. In fact, partnerships, affiliate programs, AdWords were your primary ways. SEO, of course, the organic search. The world has changed. Facebook, and I'm not an affiliate, by the way, just to be clear. Facebook doesn't sponsor this or pay for this, and I'm not even a Facebook fan. There's a lot of things they do I don't like. However, I've watched entrepreneurial ventures start and using Facebook alone drive $60, $70, $80 million a year in sales for a very tough commoditized product. I'm impressed, and I'm still trying to understand it. All that we ever do here is delve deep down into that single question, why do people say yes? And in doing so, we're trying to understand more deeply human nature. But human nature is displayed across the canvas of technology that allows us to see into the mind through these new devices, new inventions, new ways of watching people choose. And the internet has become the greatest behavioral research laboratory in history. And it's the reason we founded our organization some 30 years ago. And today we're going to take that all the way back and look at some of our earliest and then some of our latest experiments in e-commerce. Now, let's move past Facebook. Let's move towards the channel. And let me show you a very famous website. You probably don't recognize it unless you've been in the martial arts or fitness. But the kettlebell was brought to the U.S. and popularized by this very, very smart direct response marketer who owns magazines and e-commerce sites and many things. Very impressive man. You can see a control and you can see a treatment. There's a control and there's a treatment. There's a control and there's a treatment side by side, or a version A and version B. B could be the control and A could be the treatment for the purposes of this little question I'm going to ask you. But I want to point it out to you because this is an old experiment. It goes back to the earlier days in our research lab. And we built the first experimental program studying e-commerce. We studied the very first cart. We even wrote the first book on the first major e-commerce cart, which was Y Store, Yahoo Store, and was developed by Paul Graham, who's now famous for Y Incubator. But Paul built this store in college and then sold it. Well, he might not have been in college. I thought it was in college, but he sold it for, I think, 40, I've heard two numbers, but around 49 to 50 million to Yahoo. And that's where Paul sort of got his start. And I remember when it happened. I remember what occurred. I remember when Yahoo took it over. I remember predicting it was one of Yahoo's smartest moves. This was pre-Google, when Yahoo was coming on strong. Wow, the world has changed. I remember going back in the earliest days. I had a site called Store Advisor that studied all e-commerce. And so when a group called eMerchandiser came along, I flew to their headquarters. And another major group that you would know. But when I got there, I found out headquarters was actually an apartment complex, and they had filled up their room upstairs and downstairs in this apartment with developers and designers, and that was it. That was headquarters. And now, of course, look at Amazon. 60 to 70%, I think, of all e-commerce sales through one vendor who's created one of the richest men, if not the richest man in the world, prior to his recent family conflict. And I have only empathy for both parties there. So take a look at this store. Now, here we are. Version A, version B. Which one do you think? Let's get a vote in. All right? Here we go. I'm looking now. Version A, version B. Vote. Tell me. Internet marketers, which one of these will produce the highest sales? A or B? B says Dave. B says Kevin. A says Barry. I'm watching them come in. Ray has just voted. Another A for Lisa. B for Persuasive Video Works. I see B. Keep them coming. I am now going to show you that, and here it is. Well, I'm going to show it to you in just a second. For anybody that's new, what we're learning from today is 20,000 plus path treatments. Paul's laughing at me. I knew this was coming in my deck, but I forgot. It's because I'm very old, and Paul looks for those moments to make fun of me. And he's just waiting for me to keel over so he can step in. But, just because this video is going to be watched by different people from different parts around the world, perhaps dozens of people, Paul, maybe, if not tens. We've had 20 years, I can hear him laughing in the control room all the way over here, 20 years of research and 1 billion emails. It's really been closer to 30. And we've ran 20,000 cell path tests. That catalog that's being shown here is the 2012 catalog, and it looks like a phone book, and it's just abstracts from the experiments. I'm sharing that with you in case you're new, because out of that, we've compiled 25 of our e-commerce experiments and built a file for you. We want you to download it, not because it's not you don't have to sign up for anything or pay anything. It's not about that. It's really about what I'm going to teach next. I'm teaching from this file. I just recently taught from our lead gen file. I've recently taught from our subscription file, and now I'm going to teach from the e-commerce. And this is sort of a download swipe file. The idea is you can see the before and the after, and you can use it to improve your experiments. So, many of you right now that are joining us or will join us are involved in e-commerce. What can we learn? And we're going to walk through 3 pitfalls, 3 dangers that you want to avoid, and work together to learn from it. So let's start with the first one, ignoring necessary copy in favor of product pages. Now, I said necessary copy, and recently I was teaching somewhere and I posed a question and I got the perfect answer. It was an answer that I had taught on YouTube Live, and I could tell they had been with me on this, and so they replied when I said, when is long copy right? And the answer is when it's necessary in order to fully communicate the value proposition or the key components of the sale. And being shorter doesn't produce more. In fact, short copy is not your enemy, nor is long copy your enemy. A lack of clarity is your enemy. Indeed, long copy is necessary when you need it to be clearer about what it is you're offering. We'll talk more about that in the future, but for now, let's think about that in conjunction with e-commerce. There is the site, there is the piece we voted for, and here are the results. The second version, less images, less product pictures, but more important copy, produces a 61% increase in purchases. And that's vital. That's transformative. That's money in the bank. And it's interesting to me because I've taught in other sessions, there's only 3 things you can do to improve a web page. You can add, remove, or change. It's physics. It's not just philosophy, it's physics. You can add something, remove something, change something. That's the fundamental thing you can do to manipulate the reality. And that reality produces inside of people what you add, remove, or change will create an observation in their mind. Now, that observation is simply the thing that they are pointing their attention to. And as they point their attention to it, their sensory engagement starts the processing in their mind. And from that observation, human beings have survived these thousands of years because of our ability to move from observation through inference to a conclusion. So the next step is a conclusion. And you've got to understand how critical that is. We move from observation to conclusion, and often our conclusions are wrong. And in fact, we can manipulate people's conclusions by controlling their observations. This is the dangerous side of marketing. This is what happens in politics. This is what happens when the opposing party tries to manipulate the amount of information you have so that you draw a conclusion that makes perfect sense to you, but it's still wrong. The trick here is not doing the so-called math, i.e. the reasoning. I mean, everybody on this phone call can do 2 + 3 = 5, right? You all understand that. So if you observe 2 + 3, you conclude it's 5. So I'm literally saying 2 items, 2 items, 1 item, 1 item, 1 item, boom, 3, 2 + 3, and you conclude 5, and that's good thinking, and there's nothing wrong with your mind. But what if we've fooled you? What if behind this item is another item? What if it's parallel, and you can't see behind it? But that's because your perspective, your plane of view only allows you to see here. You don't see that behind this item is another one that you could only see if you change your perspective, got an aerial view, and looked down. When that happens, you conclude that there are 5 objects, but you are wrong. You are dead wrong. And sometimes being dead wrong is deadly. And in fact, what's really gone wrong is you're super confident because you have done the math right and you know you've done the math right, but you started with the wrong assumptions. You started with a flawed observation. Now, what does that have to do with what I'm teaching you here? Because marketers need to understand that all of our success is dependent on helping people make the right observation. Thus, they come to a conclusion, and that conclusion powers a decision. The observation powers the conclusion, powers the decision. And the decision is let's call it inaugurated by the desired behavior. So we'll call that the experience, that's the experience of the product. And I'm going to just abbreviate. So now you've got observations, conclusions, decisions, which are evidenced in their behavior. Now let's just think about this in a purchase process and go all the way through. We're going to show you how this applies right here, but I want to come back to this little experiment. What we've done in version B, listen to me carefully, we have not added some words to the page. If that's how deep you think, you're never going to get profound results. What we've actually done is changed your observation set, providing you more of the information you need to achieve an organic clarity. And with that organic clarity, you're liable to make a different conclusion. And that conclusion will power a decision to purchase. Now, with that decision to purchase, which is evidenced in behavior, we have an experience, and it always comes with expectations. The conclusion powers expectations that come through this decision path. You buy the product, you expect something. The resulting experience will either corroborate the expectation, so this is experience and this is expectation, and if it corroborates it, it becomes, or not, it becomes the new set of observations with which you judge that enterprise. Now you may think that's all seeming so complex, and it's quite simple, and you engage in this cycle day in and day out. And looking at this page, version A, you had some observations. You saw lots of shiny pictures. You didn't have much more to go on than the pictures, so you drew a conclusion. With that conclusion, you made a decision. With the decision came expectations, and then you bought the product and you had an experience. And it might have been what you expected, and if so, it might have exceeded your expectations. And when that happens, the cycle of trust grows deeper, and the customer becomes a repeat customer often. However, what we did with the page B was we gave you a new set of observations. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. For those of you that, my background is philosophy and actually philosophy and theology. This is where it gets very interesting, because here's what's going on. You had an observation, you drew a conclusion, and you bought. That conclusion helped you decide to buy. Now, see all that text and copy? This happens lots on long copy pages. This happens all over the internet. If we exaggerated in the observation set, if we exaggerated over here or told you things that are not real, eventually you experience and you have expectations, and the disconnect between the experience and the expectations will lead you to revise your observation, thus your conclusion and your future decisions. So sometimes, and this happens in politics, the politician sells themselves by manipulating every aspect of the observation set. I mean, have you noticed how careful they are about looking casual when they're talking to a union audience? Shirt sleeves rolled up typically, coat off, and top button unbuttoned, no tie. And then at the same time, when they're in a posh party in Washington and they're in just the right suit, every single time they're trying to manipulate the observation so that you come to a conclusion, and from that conclusion, you draw the decision they want, which is to vote for them. Of course, with that comes an expectation of what they're going to do for the country, and with the expectation comes an experience, and it may or may not corroborate, and when it doesn't, they lose voters. This cycle is not about voting today, though. It's about selling your product. Now, here's the key. There's a natural integrity built into this system, because if you lie in this phase, if you manipulate the observation so that you lead them to make a bad decision based on a faulty conclusion, it's going to show up in the experience. And as a retailer, you're going to pay for that over and over and over again. So the key here, is to understand that when you look at these two pages, if you can shift, you look at these two pages, and we look at an old experiment, and it just looks about some images and copy, and the typical marketer will be bored, deservedly, if their job is simply to figure out how much text to put on this page or what picture to put on this page, instead of understanding that we're living here in the core of human nature, at the heart of what makes us human, and we're understanding humanity, its behaviors, its predispositions, and its natural warrants, and the way the mind unfolds in the decision process. I've spent 30 years trying to understand this. I'm embarrassed by how much I still don't know. But I'm fascinated enough to run an experiment in Facebook that on the surface seems bored as can be. Let's check lookalike audiences against keyword-based audiences. But think about what you're really testing. You're testing reaching the right person against reaching someone with the right message. And they're not the same. And I could unpack this Facebook experience in layer after layer after layer and learn from it. And that's the goal. Time doesn't allow us to do more. I've only got onto the first of these. Remember, you need to download that deck. And it feels like I'm selling the deck. I'm not. I'm just I want you to have this so you can learn from it. And honestly, I'm not going to be able to cover every experiment in this short period of time. But what you saw in the deck, i.e., we added words to the page, I think there's a danger of you not seeing the deeper implications of that shift and what was really going on as we changed the observation set to get more people to make the conclusion that would lead to the purchase and thus the experience. It's a good product run by a good merchant, and people who buy it are not dissatisfied. And so we were not serving the audience well with the shiny pictures and the lack of clarity that came with more words. Is everybody getting that? Is that helping you? Give me some feedback quickly, because I went pretty deep there for a moment, and I am constantly trying to figure out what the right level is with my audience. But if you're enjoying this piece, let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to keep moving. So 61% later, 61% more money later, we move to the next one. This is test protocol 1665, training tools for professional grade strength and conditioning. Now, same site, okay? Look at the control. These are workshops. Look at the two side by side, control and treatment. Now, what is the difference here? Take a look at the page, look at the control, look at the treatment. What's going on here? All right, here you go. Jeff Wright, the marketer does not drive traffic. The rest of the quote on your whiteboard. I don't know if I know what you're saying. I'm looking at somebody's talking to from the audience team. But I do understand that we don't drive traffic, we attract it. And particularly through the strength of our value proposition. So I'm just stopping for a moment to answer Jeff. In the meantime, looking at the control and the treatment, somebody tell me, what's the difference? Well, look on the left again. We have the same sort of thing happening on the left that happened when we looked at the product page. There's a list of these things with pictures. On the right-hand side, there's explanation. I've said to you before, too much declaration and not enough explanation is a plague on the internet. But let's look at the two side by side and let's look at the difference. When we explained more, what did we get? 20% relative increase in order rate. Is there more copy on the right? Yes, there is. But is there more revenue? Yes, there is when we put more copy. Retailers tend to especially shy away from copy. The long copy sales experts, I was looking at a long copy page. It's one internet page, by the way, one internet page for a good company. And I liked the team and I was teaching them. And this was just a week ago. And that one page got a significant conversion lift when they brought in an expert to write copy. And when you actually print it, it's 90 pages long. It's a one-page long copy that's 90 printed pages, but revenue went up. Retailers don't think that way. So retailer, here's your lesson. I taught this 25 years ago, but I'll say it here today. A good retailer is also a good publisher, and a good publisher is also a good retailer. Keep that in mind. All right, and let's keep going. Here we go. Test protocol 1700, car repair products. Oh, I remember these guys. They actually launched a new site and experienced a tremendous decline, over 50% when they launched it. They brought in a conversion expert, whose name I will not say, but the conversion expert didn't do any testing. They just proffered their opinion. They designed the site around that opinion, and conversion dropped 50%, 54% to be precise. The CEO called me up and said, I'm in trouble. I need help. They were a smaller company. This was serious. Let's just look at one of the things that we did in order to improve performance. Here's control, and here's the treatment. Here's the control. Let's go back and take a look at it. That's the product image, which we've hidden, and it's not a bad looking page. Look at the treatment. What's the difference? Somebody tell me, what's the difference? Let's come side by side. Look at the top of the page. What's going on here? Well, we're not relying on the image alone to get into the psychology of the purchase. We need words because people think in a special combination of words and images, and there's more that I can say with an image in sometimes in the space than I can say with words. So that image is very compelling and important. On the other hand, there are things an image can never say. I can't look at that image and understand everything I need to know, nor can it build the problem. Do you hear me? At least when you just show the product. You are displaying the solution. But look at this top. Does your car have a blown something? All right? That's simply talking about the problem that this product solves. And we're zeroing in on the problem because it's very expensive. It could cost $2,000 to $4,000 to fix this, and sometimes more. And so here's the thing that's hard to believe. You can buy this little product for $50 or $100 and fix your $4,000 problem. So you'd think it's enough to display the product, but the product is missing the main thing. It's missing the problem. I don't care about your solution until I feel the problem. Do you hear me? Everything has the thought process is a sequence. We don't optimize web pages. All of you have heard me teach this. We optimize for the sequence of thought. And emphasizing the problem was something we did with words. Could we have done it with a picture? Possibly. It would have had to have been a movie-like picture. There'd have been multiple images, but we did it well with words. And then the solution in the form of that picture, well, that was powerful then. Side by side, it's 36% more revenue. By the way, there's a real happy ending to that story. We reverted the site back to the old site. Conversion went right back up. So they captured the 54%, and then we drove it another 50%-ish on top of that through something besides truisms and conversion rules, through hypothesis and experimentation, through getting deep into the psychology of the purchase. Retailer, if you're going to be good at what you do, you've got to master the psychology of the sale, and that's fascinating. On a side note, I'm going to my second point, but I was with a man who sells plantations and giant ranches. In the last few years, he's done over $500 million in sales. Now, try being a realtor and have a value proposition. We all know that, there's real estate agents everywhere, and it's very hard to have a value proposition when everybody else is offering the same thing, properties, and they can co-list it and on the list. But this man has built a hugely successful business by emphasizing his value proposition in the form of specialty. And when I was riding down the road with him, we were looking at investments together. And he said to me, everything I've done here goes back to me stopping and thinking, I'm not in real estate business. I'm in the psychology business. I'm in the field of psychology, and I'm trying to understand what happens in the mind. He said, and we began to talk about techniques that he uses to choice frame, so that by the time he's done, you see the value, you perceive the value to be much higher than even many sellers realized. I'm just trying to tell you, the reason he's successful is he realized that his business was not dirt, it was thoughts. And realtor, that's true for all of you. And guess what? Merchant, it's true for you too. All right, let's keep going. Experiment 4. Test protocol 1568. Now, the number isn't like the fourth one we're actually teaching. It's just we're pulling these from the number in the deck because there's many experiments in this deck that we're giving to you. But test protocol 1568, and it's an online printing company. They deliver print marketing materials. They're a cool company. Here was the control. And as I'm talking about that, let's just back up. Did you hear this? Did you really get this second pitfall? Because the first one was about relying too heavily on images. The second one is about not designing to the eye path. It's about not taking advantage of the powerful human nature, the instinct in human nature to see in a certain way, to have attention drawn. We survived by mechanisms that draw our attention. We do not see everything. We see certain things, specialized sight, certain things in a certain order, and it's based typically on 5 elements, and they're relative in their impact: size, color, shape, motion, and position. Now, let's look at that in the context of this. So here is a quarter-page club flyer offering. You can see the image blown up the way we've shown it to you, and the description. And now, think about the iPad. When your eyes see a page like this, they already start upper left. Typically, that's what happens. The only way that might not happen for us, at least in the Western world, is if there's something else that interferes with our natural predisposition to see upper left, like a big image lower right, or color where there is no color. Notice how there's a lot of color around that product, but not much color elsewhere. That's good, that's powerful, except it draws your eyes to the product and leaves you there. We could talk about that later. Nothing else draws me down through this if you're not careful. And if you look at the second half of the page, you can see that when you get to the bottom of the page, you literally sort of have to go back up again to sort of, let's go backwards. You have to go back up again. There you go. All right. It's not clicking fast enough. There you go. To sort of make the purchase. So you go down to the bottom, back up to the right, back down again to move through this copy. That is not how the eyes want to work. They're looking at that page as a whole. They do not see an invisible wall just because you broke your message up into 2 pieces and put them in front of me horizontally. Let's test this. Take your eyes and put it on product details. Everybody watching with me, look at product details. And then straight to the right. By the way, Jeff says, this is tedious. Good comment. I am hoping that Jeff means the page is tedious and not the YouTube live broadcast. But Jeff, I'm sort of tired of hearing myself talk too. So if you mean the broadcast, all I can say is you have my deepest sympathy. Take a look now, but let's do this test. So all of you, take a look at right now the product details where it says product details underneath the image. Take your eyes and read, and then shift all the way to the right. Keep going. Don't stop at the box. So if I go product details, the next thing I hit is paper stock. 70 to uncoated opaque paper. Coating, none. Do you see what's gone wrong here? You're making me treat this page like a puzzle riddle. I've got to figure out how to solve the riddle and make meaning. Do not rely on the prospect to make meaning. You must make meaning for the prospect. And in this case, we do it something very, very simple. Thanks, Jeff and Dave. All right, let's look at these 2 pages now. And now we're going to see the treatment, and we're going to see how it's different. And I won't really belabor the point. It's easier to notice it side by side. But what you're seeing now is the product and the way to order the product, and it flows naturally. And any information you need beyond that is beneath it. In many cases, they don't need any more information that's right there. They're ready to purchase. This information at the bottom was in the upper left, and what it did was it got in the way. Let's look at the 2 side by side. So now you came to the product page. This is not a sell page. Now, every page must provide value, but this page is designed to really take your order. And so we get you right into the order process, and we put the specs and key pieces beneath that because, and that would not work. Listen to me very carefully. In fact, let me test your thinking. See the text in the bottom that starts with, the product description and all those tabs? When would that be important to put above the ask? Above the ask. In other words, when would you change the order and put that at first and the ordering information afterwards? Somebody tell me based on what you've learned. When would you put it above? And we'll give us 10 seconds, because I know there's a delay between when you hear me and when I actually see your response. But under what circumstances would you put that product details piece above? Josh Wish said on an informational page. All right? That's a step in the right direction. Let me just tell you to help you. If that information, Kevin says when the user needs to, yes, when the user needs to understand the benefits of the product, you're almost there. Dave, you're almost there. In fact, Kevin, you've pretty much nailed it. When the user needs that information in order to make the purchase, then you wouldn't hit them in the eye with the purchase, But at this point, this is supplemental information, so it does not belong in the main flow in the way of the purchase. So we push it below that for those who need it. Now, we could have tried a right-hand approach to that, but to keep things dead simple, we pushed it below. Now, once again, what you're looking at is not a change in page design. You're looking at a change in the way we are triggering cues in the mind. And what is the financial result? An 87% increase. Now, by the way, that's conversion team on a product page. That's not 87% more people getting into a process, 87% more in step one, 87% more on your home page. That's 87% more money at the end of the month, simply by layering the sequence and ordering the iPath properly. Are you following with me? All right. Now, let's keep going. Here's test protocol 1621, and the goal here is a one-stop vacation planning solution, and they want to increase final vacation bookings. So there's the control cart. We do this around the world with probably, I guess, the biggest travel companies in the world. And we work with one group with over 50,000 travel agents. And then we work with some very big brands that have credit cards, whose names I will not say, and then the biggest online travel service in the world as well. Now, I'm sharing that with you to simply say I spent 4 years studying travel. We got new friends we're working with in South Africa. They're a global company that just started last week, and we're learning constantly. But let's just take this simple lesson, looking at this control. And you're seeing the checkout process, and I want you to see that gray box. Now, the gray box is side by side, and there's a goal here to show you what's coming next. They're trying to help you know what's coming next, but it's actually grayed out in execution. We didn't put that on the slide. You can't get the gray barrier off the right-hand side till you click the continue button. But now you have two processes side by side. One is gray and one is dark. And it's not really clear. Is that step two? Well, you got a step one above it, but step two is grade over grade over grade. You know, if you look at the color, it doesn't pop. And it's also intimidating. It looks like there's a lot you have to do. And your mind has a hard time capturing and comprehending a cluster of information that large. Now you could say, well, that's a good opinion, and you're right. It's just a hypothesis. Do you hear me? It would have been only a hypothesis had we not tested what I'm going to share with you next. The only difference here when you tune into one of these broadcasts and we teach is that we're trying to do more than offer you an opinion. Everything's based on the case studies and the experiments, and we're learning from those. And so we had that hypothesis, the one I just described, and so we did something about it. We saw the problems, and we created this page. Now, we've done some key pieces of psychology that we've taught you in the past, but just look at the flow of the page. There's the control, there's the treatment. There's the control, there's the treatment. All right? Now, you can see that the same information is on both pages, but there's a natural order and a simplicity and a way to digest that in the way that the mind functions. It's linear. So what do you see? Control, treatment, and if you're the merchant, you see 36% more money. Now go back from control to treatment. So think about what you're doing with your current pages, and let's use this as a moment to talk about one of the great dangers in almost every long copy page and many carts that I'm looking at right now. And the danger can be summarized in one word: Apple. You say, wait a second, Apple? Well, you know, Apple obviously went from bankruptcy, nearly 4 months away from bankruptcy when Steve took back over, to the biggest company in the world, biggest retailer in the world, the more products sold per square foot than any other company in the world. Now, they're on a downward decline now, though that's well disguised by lots of other pieces, but they're losing key components of their value proposition, but they still are carrying the momentum from all that success under Steve. And here's what I'd like to suggest for you that you should learn. When they started winning, people would wait in line and wait for 3 days, camped for a new product to be released. We thought that was cool. We also thought their web pages were cool. So we went out and we copied their web pages. But you know what we didn't copy? We didn't copy the idea that we were going to wait and make people in front of our stores wait for 3 days before they can purchase something, because we knew that would be foolish and people wouldn't wait and they'd go away. Apple didn't succeed because of their sexy web pages. Apple succeeded because of their sexy product. Their web page was sufficient, but it was not best. They did glorious things with the imagery. It was beautiful. I liked that. It helped. It was an improvement. but they typically just stack modules of information on top of each other. They did not create a vertical sequence of thought. And then we all went out and copied them, except we didn't have value propositions like Apple. We didn't have exclusivity like Apple. And so we don't even realize how much money it's costing us because we copied the wrong thing about Apple. We should have copied the essence of their value proposition. Instead, we copied the design of their pages, and we're getting flawed results, and we don't even know it. So now when I look at long pages, when I look at mini pages, it reminds me of Apple. Here's a module about it, here's a module about it, here's a module. We don't call them modules, but they're just like, I don't know what thing's going to sell, so let me just stack all these ideas on top of each other, and perhaps one of them will get through. That's a poor strategy that will not produce your optimal results. It does not match the way the mind works, and you don't need to sell your product by presenting people with a smorgasbord of information. You need to present a flow, a sequence, a thinking process that is organic, natural, and matching to theirs. So if you're following me on that, I'll just show you another experiment here quickly. And it brings me to the third and last point. So why are we not getting the top results? Why are our e-commerce operations underperforming? Here's the third reason. Because we forget to support the message with the level of credibility necessary to get those who are on the edges of motivation to say yes. Look at Test Protocol 1267. This group is a precious metal exchange. Credibility is important. This is the control. 15 form filled, some are unnecessary. You can see problems. But the real issue is, you want me to send you my gold or buy gold from you or precious metal, and you've stopped building confidence. You didn't just stop communicating value, but you assume that you communicated enough value that now when I get to this page, which has a big ask from me and intensifies my anxiety and my friction, you did not layer this with increasing levels of trust-building credibility. So here's the new page. Let's just look at them side by side. Old page, new page. Now, how do we fix that? Well, we take away anything that might endear more friction, more anxiety, which might require more trust. And then we intensify trust. What's the biggest way that we intensify trust? You're watching it. Look at the treatment. Just put it right now into YouTube. We're in our last probably 5 to 10 minutes together. So I'm going to move swiftly. But what is different about trust building on the right-hand side? Icons, yes, all those trust-related icons. By the way, we think Norton Buy Safe still works. We just ran an experiment with Norton, studying that. We ran a whole series of tests for the Buy Safe group that's owned by, what's the name of the group that owns? I guess it is Buy Safe, yeah. It's the Norton Buy Safe shopping seal. It's one of those kinds of things that you can put below here. And I'm just telling you that to tell you that we ran experiments there. But take a look. So there's one. Testimonials, that's the other piece. Do you see those on the right-hand side? Now, what's the difference with the control and the treatment? Forget length. That's the obvious thing. The difference is we reduce the strain of the ask and we intensify the trust factor through credibility indicators. Yes, and specificity and credibility, Jeff, good call. All right, what do we have here ultimately? A 56. Now, I want you to notice this in revenue per order, the real trust marker here. Revenue per order went up 56% by putting in the credibility indicators. Now, I'm almost done. Mid-sized furniture companies selling mattresses. It's really easy to see how what we do here now is emphasize a credibility indicator. There's the control, and I'm going to show you the treatment. And I think when you see them side by side, it's easier. So there's the treatment. Notice the big section added where it has the treatment. And when you see me here at camera and I'm looking right there, it's because I got screens everywhere, but the screen that shows me what you can see as the slides are turning is right there. And so my eyes go back and forth. And over here is Paul. He's always making fun of me and stuff. And I look to him, out of fear and trembling. And then there's a crack between all the screens where I can see the guys in the control room. And they're always flashing whiteboards at me, telling me how many minutes I have left. Sometimes they sprinkle insults. It's very dangerous being here on the stage in Mech Labs. You never know what these guys are going to pull next. But they're my friends. All right, so now look at the buttons. What do you see? The key here is that green guard button was on the control. It's hard to see it, but it was up there right under that, right next to the 100 night. See that piece? It's right next to that. We took it, called it out to emphasize its impact on the mind. Same piece, same item. but we used the position and the size, and we used words to enhance, to intensify the mental impact. What does that produce? 46%. 46% increase. Last one, I think. Is this the last one? Yeah, this is the last one. And I sort of like this one because it brings me back to years ago. It's a people search company. And I wrote this email. A lot of these experiments are conducted by our teams and our scientists. I don't do all of this. There's people everywhere here that are, they're just, even my children grew up in the lab. They didn't go to school in a regular public school. They went to school here. Bob Kemper, the head of sciences, was their math teacher. And so it's a cool environment here. But what I want you to see is, I remember this one. I wrote this one. This is a long time ago. There's a control. And by the way, we wrote the control too. And then here's a treatment. And the treatment adds this: we apologize for any difficulty you may have had with our ordering system. Now, what we're doing here is we're adding words. It's longer. Our customer service manager has approved a special price of $19.95, and if you'd like to give us one more chance. What we're really doing is reaching out to people who didn't complete their order. And we don't know if it's our fault or theirs, but we're going to take the blame. And that already strikes the mind in a way that's more human, more personal. And the psychology of this is simple. You didn't complete your order. If we messed up, we're so sorry. And because we messed up, or because we might have messed up, we're going to give you a chance to buy it these two different ways, and it's a better deal for you. Do you feel the tone of that? Very different than last chance to buy before X, before all your family dies and all your chickens. Hurry, hurry, hurry. They're laughing at me. But the reality is, adding that paragraph brought to this something different, something more real, something human, and honestly, from that, more credibility. One of the greatest ways to improve our credibility, I just saw it this morning. I was actually teaching at Ocean One. I rushed over here from teaching a session to a large insurance company that's flown into town to train their team and to improve their value proposition. And I was showing this exact point in a different way with an experiment. But the reality is, one of the greatest ways to improve credibility is just with your tone. I mean, listen, this is the last thing I'm going to do to wrap this up, but it's really important. You can learn from this give me your whole brain now for 60 seconds. Imagine today that you go out after work to meet somebody and you walk up to the bar and you use marketing speak. Now, let me help you with that. You wouldn't walk up to someone and say, "Hi, I'm the leading marketer here in the city of Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the leading expert," or "I'm the fastest, I'm the best," or "You're gonna like me, guaranteed." People that talk that way make us sick. We run away from them. We don't spend time with them. We don't create relationships with them. And I watch marketers write that way on the page, and then I watch them in interactions with normal people after a training session, in a cocktail hour, or at a restaurant, and they're natural and organic and they're genuine and they're good people, and you feel it. But you can't feel it in their copy because their tone has become the professional marketing tone, which is hype and garbage. Now, I'm telling you that because one of the ways to increase credibility is to make your tone more genuine. And that's something often overlooked by retailers, because retailers in particular have a language, last chance, this, that, all these phrases we use that immediately put people on their guard. Avoid it like the plague. All right. That, my friends, and there's the text up side by side, and there, let's go back. Look at the result. It's pretty cool. 263%. All we did was change the tone, sprinkle in an apology, act like a human being. 263%. That's real numbers. It's amazing. It's not about the lift. It's not even about the money. It's about the mind. The huge impact simple change like that has. And that's all I have for today. That is from the e-commerce deck. Download it. Learn from all these experiments. Copy it. Use it. Make your business a stronger business. And let's work as a team to serve customers better, to treat them right, and to deliver an honest and genuine value proposition into the marketplace. One last thing I would say, join me on these social media links so that I can give you updates during the week. And honestly, get involved in the quick win. Come to our facility and train with us and build better pages together and learn where you have low-hanging fruit that you can get a hold of and drive a result with. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you.